Most traders understand disappointment. They understand frustration. They understand annoyance after a red day. But there's another emotion that shows up quietly for many traders, and it's far more damaging. Shame doesn't feel loud like anger. It doesn't feel explosive like frustration. It feels heavy. It lingers. It follows you after the screens are closed. You don't just think, I had a bad day. You think, what's wrong with me? Why can't I get this right? Maybe I'm not cut out for this. That's not disappointment. That's shame. And shame is one of the most corrosive emotional forces in trading, because shame doesn't motivate improvement. It shuts you down. Let's talk about why losing days trigger shame, even when you followed your rules. At the surface level, a losing day seems simple. You took trades. The market didn't cooperate. You lost money. But emotionally, something deeper happens. The loss doesn't stay external. It turns inward. Instead of being about probability, it becomes about identity. The day doesn't just feel unprofitable. It feels exposing, as if the loss revealed something flawed about you. This is where shame enters. Shame is not the same as guilt. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame says, I am wrong. That distinction matters. Guilt can lead to correction. Shame leads to withdrawal. And many traders unknowingly experience shame after losing days, even when they traded well. Why? Because trading taps directly into self-evaluation. There is no buffer, no manager to blame, no external circumstance to point to, no clear separation between performance and person. You are the system. So when the system produces a loss, it feels personal. Even if you know intellectually that losses are part of the game, emotionally, the brain interprets them differently. Let's look at how the brain processes loss. From a neurological perspective, loss activates threat circuits. Not just financial threat, identity threat. Your brain asks, am I competent? Am I safe? Am I progressing or falling behind? These questions don't feel logical. They feel visceral. And when those questions don't have reassuring answers, shame fills the gap. This is especially true if you came into trading with expectations. Expectations about how fast you should improve, how consistent you should be by now, how much money you should be making, how together you should feel emotionally. When reality doesn't match those expectations, the brain looks for a reason. And instead of blaming randomness, it blames you. That's how shame forms. Another reason shame shows up after losing days is comparison. You may not even consciously compare yourself to others, but you're aware they exist. Other traders posting wins, other traders sounding confident, other traders appearing composed. Even if you know those images are incomplete, your brain still registers them. And when your day ends red, comparison intensifies the emotional hit. You don't just feel like you lost. You feel like you're behind. And being behind feels like deficiency. Shame thrives in that space. There's also a perfectionism component many traders don't recognize. You may tell yourself you're realistic, that you understand losses are part of trading. But emotionally, you may still expect yourself to do better, to know more, to execute cleaner, to avoid mistakes by now. So when a losing day happens, it doesn't feel neutral. It feels like a violation of who you think you should be. That's another doorway for shame. Now let's talk about what shame actually does to your trading. Shame doesn't disappear overnight. It lingers. It shows up the next morning. You sit down to trade and feel hesitant. Not because the market looks unclear, but because confidence is lower. You don't trust yourself as much. You second-guess more. You hesitate at entries. Or in some cases, you swing the other direction. You overtrade. You push harder. You try to erase the feeling. Either way, decision-making quality suffers. This is why shame is so dangerous. It doesn't just make you feel bad. It quietly degrades execution. And then, when execution degrades, results worsen, which creates more shame. A loop forms. This is how traders get emotionally stuck. Not because they can't learn strategy, but because shame makes learning unsafe. When every mistake feels like a personal failure, you stop being curious. You stop experimenting. You stop objectively reviewing trades. Instead, you either avoid looking at your performance, or you review it harshly, with judgment instead of insight. Neither leads to growth. Let's pause here and reframe something crucial. A losing day is not evidence that you are failing. It is evidence that you are participating in a probabilistic system. That sounds obvious, but emotionally, it's rarely felt that way. So we need to change how the brain interprets losses. This starts by separating performance from identity. Performance fluctuates. Identity should not. You are not your profits and losses. You are not today's result. You are the person making repeated decisions over time. That perspective sounds simple, but it requires practice. Here's one powerful shift. After a losing day, do not ask, "Why am I so bad at this?" Ask, "What information did today give me about my execution?" One question attacks identity. The other preserves it. Shame thrives when identity is under threat. It fades when identity is protected. Another important step is emotional normalization. Losing days will hurt emotionally. That does not mean something is wrong. Pain does not equal failure. It equals engagement. If losses didn't affect you at all, that would be concerning. The goal is not emotional numbness. The goal is emotional proportion. A loss should register, but it should not define you. Here's another reframe. Shame often comes from believing that losses mean regression. But progress in trading is not linear. You do not move forward every day. You move forward in phases. Learning phases. Plateau phases. Regression phases. All of them are normal. If you expect constant forward motion, every setback feels catastrophic. If you expect variability, setbacks feel manageable. This is why seasoned traders don't panic over losing days. Not because they don't care, but because they've seen enough cycles to know the day is not the story. It's a data point. One more thing to address. Many traders feel ashamed after losing days because they don't allow themselves recovery. They replay the day mentally. They carry it into the evening. They carry it into the next session. They never emotionally close the loop. So the loss stays open. Here's a simple practice that helps. At the end of a losing day, write one sentence. Today's result does not define my ability as a trader. It may feel cheesy, but repetition matters. You are retraining interpretation. Then write one thing you did well, even if the day was red. This anchors identity to behavior, not outcome. Over time, this reduces shame's grip. Now let's talk about the long-term cost of ignoring shame. Unprocessed shame leads to burnout. It makes trading feel heavy. It makes showing up feel harder. It drains motivation. Many traders quit not because they lost money, but because the emotional weight became too much. They didn't know how to carry losses without carrying judgment. That's what we're fixing here. Losses will happen, but shame doesn't have to follow. When you learn to experience losses without turning them into identity statements, trading changes. Not because results magically improve, but because you become emotionally sustainable. And sustainability is what allows skill to compound. This is the real trader's hidden edge. Not avoiding losses, but recovering from them cleanly. If this episode resonated with you, hit the like button. Subscribe with alerts for more deep insight into trading psychology, and leave a comment below. After a losing day, what emotion stays with you the longest? Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next episode.